Backpack Broadcasting continues to bring you the best original sports content, but now you can get more of the content you love. For as little as $3 a month, you can get access to bonus content, including behind-the-scenes footage and interviews from the Sports Walk, Sideline Stories, or the Ain't Hard to Tell podcast. All this exclusive content comes via Patreon. There are tiered levels of patronage, and each Backpack Broadcasting patron receives exclusive perks. Your support helps Backpack Broadcasting create more of the original content that you love. Visit Backpack Broadcasting's Patreon page and become a patron today. Ain't Hard to Tell podcast, episode 212. Dexter Henry, Brian Fonseca here. Hope everybody is well. Brian, how you doing?
212, huh?
212, man. Episode 212. Numbers are going up.
Yeah, this 212. Shout out to Manhattan, I guess, if you want to do that. Even though I just shitted on like half of the borough a couple episodes ago, whenever we did the brackets.
Oh God, yeah, I forgot. I forgot about that already.
Yeah, I was like, yo, son, I was hot about that. I'm still hot about that. I actually found the bracket. I was doing some winter cleaning on the laptop over here. I actually found the bracket on my desktop, and I passionately deleted it. Got it out of here, put it in my bin, and got rid of it. I was like, fuck out of here. I never want to see this shit again. Fucking all Manhattan sees number. Who ended up winning that tournament? Was it Jackson Heights?
I think it was Jackson Heights.
All right, that's fine.
Heights.
That's fine.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have said that probably, some years ago, but
somebody's got somebody's got to come and do a better one, and hopefully that happens. Hopefully
Jackson Heights is super diverse, but I don't even like Jackson Heights like that to have it win the whole bracket. Like I don't think Jackson Heights is better than Forest Hills. We're not doing this again.
Yeah, we're not doing it again. We got a lot to get to today in the world of sports, music, a lot of things to talk about. We just coming off the Super Bowl. Shout out to the Rams. Los Angeles Rams won Super Bowl 56. Shout out to Aaron Donald, Pitt legend, out there now, Super Bowl champion.
Thank you, Rams. Sincerely.
Yes, and we'll get to that in a second. Thank you to the Rams, because had the Rams not got this done, things could have got very annoying. Brian and I would have been annoyed because this podcast would have been different. We're still going to hit on some of that, but it would have been different. But when it came to the Super Bowl, a lot of people were talking about the Super Bowl halftime show, the G-Funk halftime show, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, Mary J. Blige, Kendrick Lamar, Eminem. We saw a special guest appearance from 50 Cent, which I kind of thought could happen because a friend told me, he's like, yo, that would be kind of cool if 50 came and was good. Anderson .Paak made a cameo there as well, too.
Happy as hell to just be on the drums out there.
Yeah,
that dude
man,
was jamming, son.
Yeah, I still need to see him live. Still deciding if maybe we'll make it out to one of these Silk Sonic concerts out in Vegas. We'll see how these numbers are looking. But the Super Bowl halftime show, a lot of reaction from people. And if you looked on Twitter and other social media spaces, I mean, it was kind of clear who was really rocking with the halftime show and who was not. Basically a two Americas thing here. You can see going on who was rocking, who was not. I did think, and I talked about this with Michael Grady yesterday on the NBA Exchange. I don't know how you felt about it, B. I thought it was a really dope show. I thought it was good. Now, I think some people went too far talking about it's the greatest Super Bowl show of all time. And some of those people, I'm looking at like, okay, how many Super Bowls have you seen? How many Super Bowl halftime shows have you seen? Because people just want to put this up as it's the greatest, and they've seen like 15 Super Bowls. Okay, fine. I thought it was really good, except for my only issue. And then there were people who took this into there should have been more songs. People don't understand. Like Super Bowl halftime shows are like 15 minutes. That's it. They have to bring out the whole set. It's 15 minutes. They got to, do pre and post. They got to get back to the TV broadcast. You don't have a lot of time here. But I thought it was good the way, considering it's 5 acts, right? They weave their way through all the different acts. I thought the transitions were really good. It was really smooth. I liked the set. It looked good. The downside for me, which is probably sad for me because she was the first person who I've ever saw a concert live performing, Mary J. Blige. Number one, Mary J. clearly was not singing "Family Affair." She was lip syncing through that, and it was like, Mary, you could blow. Like, I understand maybe you didn't want to do it with all the movement. I don't know what her situation was because she'd been out of breath. I get all that, but don't lip sync. Nobody came here for this. Okay, and then you know her second song choice, um, "No More Drama," was it's a great song, fantastic song, one of her biggest hits, but I just didn't think it fit into the set of a Super Bowl halftime show. That was it. She sung it well. It was fine, but like that, I was fine with that. That was really my only qualm here. I'm not one to get into a debate about, oh, there could have been this song or that song. There's limited amount of time. Most of they picked, their couple of best songs for a medley. Snoop, did what he did. Dre ends with Still DRE. I thought it was fine. Like they picked fine songs. Like I said, outside of No More Drama, what do you want? It's a really dope halftime show. It probably deserves to be up there in the top 5 or something. Greatest of all time? Nah. This isn't better than MJ. This isn't better than Prince when he performed at the halftime show. And it's not better than Beyonce. Those are 3 off the top. It's definitely not better than. So nah, like people could calm down on it, but we always have to do this. Got to say something is the best in the moment, and and I take it with a grain of salt from people who've only watched like 10 Super Bowls. Like I'm not taking you seriously. Like you haven't watched enough Super Bowls, and I'm not necessarily sure your music taste has been evolved that enough to know that. But you know, that's it. What do you think of the show, B?
J Lo and Shakira for me is the best halftime show ever. I don't
Really?
care what anybody else has to say.
Really? I thought it
I'm
was good. I don't think it was like that.
I'm showing my bias, Dex. That's all I'm doing.
Oh,
I'm
oh,
just being
oh,
out
you
in front.
oh, okay. You're riding with your people.
Yeah,
What?
yeah, you know what I'm
I'm never gonna
saying?
be mad at
Like,
that.
we don't get a lot of that. I was re-educated yesterday actually on this note. I was watching Dark Side of the 90s, and they were talking about the dot-com boom from the early 2000s, late 90s, and how pets.com went through a fuck ton of money and just flamed out in 2 years. I was reminded that during that Super Bowl, Rams versus Titans, Rams coincidentally, from the year 2000, a lot of dot coms were spending a fuck ton of money making that sort of Super Bowl, making the commercials what it was. And I was reminded that Enrique Iglesias and Christina Aguilera performed at the Super Bowl, which I
Wow.
don't remember. I
I
haven't
remember
seen
that.
that in a while. Was
I
it
remember
good?
that.
I don't remember it.
It was solid for me. I was more here for the Christina Aguilera than the Enrique Iglesias.
Yeah.
But not that Enrique Iglesias isn't good, because he's dope. But it was good. It was solid. I don't think it was amazing. I would put Shakira and J Lo definitely over that for sure.
Yeah, Shakira and J Lo for me. I mean, they shook their ass on camera, like it.
Listen,
Like come on, son.
listen.
Like,
I might say in my lifetime, I might say it is in the top 10. I would probably say that. I'm not
yeah,
putting it number one. It might actually be even top 7 now. I think about it a little bit more. Probably
it's
about.
it's it's very memorable. I thought Janet Jackson and Justin Timberlake was memorable, albeit I remember going into school the next day and we were talking about that. And we were like very young to be talking about that.
Yeah, I can only
Um,
imagine the things. I can only imagine things you young when you're young and you saw what occurred, what you said. Yes, I'm pretty
yeah,
sure what
think
was
of,
said.
that was the first person a lot of people saw a titty. That was the first time a lot of people saw a titty. You know what I mean? Like that was it. So a whole generation of children. Anyway, back to
Yes.
yesterday. So or Sunday, but yeah, no, the Super Bowl performance I thought was really good. Like I think a lot of people were. I saw a couple people tweet that, oh, the weekend was better. It took more chances. Da, 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 da. I was like, yeah, I don't really care about taking chances for the Super Bowl necessarily. I just care about like putting on a good performance. And these were generally people that I wanted to see. Dr. Dre and Kendrick Lamar, especially. Snoop Dogg, I feel like I just see him all the time. Mary J. Blige, I mean, I don't dislike her, but I'm also not like a huge fan. Like, it's not really my bag necessarily, but I respect the work that she's done. And she's obviously worked with a lot of my favorite acts, but like, you know, I wasn't like, oh shit, Mary J's gonna be there, so I'm definitely gonna be locked in. It was like whatever to me. Same thing with Eminem. Like he's somebody who I think is one of the best rappers ever. But I don't think that he's had a body of work that I've really enjoyed front to back since 2002. So you're talking about the Eminem show there. And since then, it's been, like there's been a lot of okay albums and a lot of duds. And thankfully, and there's a reason he didn't perform any of those songs, right? Like he performed what? Lose
Thank God.
Yourself
That was it.
and
That was
Lose.
it.
He didn't do Forgot About Dre? Yeah, he did the
Oh yeah,
intro to Forgot
he
About
opened with that with like taking the hook. Yeah, and then did he listen? I thought everybody chose the right songs. Eminem chose the right song. Lose Yourself is what you got to play. We have seen this.
with
How many
two
times?
white quarterbacks
Yes.
and
How many times
Cooper
did we hear
Cup. You
Lose
got to play
Yourself?
Lose Yourself.
You
You
got
got to play
to.
Lose
How
Yourself.
many? Lose Yourself is one of those hip hop songs that like everybody loves, and the
Yeah,
white people really, really love. We used
yeah.
to remember hearing Lose Yourself at. We used to hear Lose Yourself at when we worked at St. Francis, right? And they be playing it before the games. And shout out to my man Paul Becker, who used to produce on this podcast. My man Paul Becker used to be jamming to Lose Yourself, man.
All our white homies love fucking.
I
Lose
love the
Yourself.
song. It's a great song.
It's a great song.
Absolutely great song. So, Eminem, chose that. Eminem, we should note, Brian, got the loudest ovation
Not
at the Super
surprising.
Bowl. And I mean, not surprising because it's the Super Bowl. But yeah,
Like you would have thought it should have been Dre because LA and all this shit, whatever. But
but it's the Super Bowl.
yeah, it's Super Bowl. It's new LA. You know what I mean? Like if this was a couple eras ago, Dre and or Snoop would have gotten the loudest ovation, maybe. Kendrick Lamar, I was
I
just
mean,
great.
I,
Like,
I mean, I mean, sorry to say, if
yeah,
it was a couple hours ago, Dre and Snoop would not have been performing there. Like, yeah, no, that's something that has to
hmm,
be noted. Like, you have to think about, like, in terms of hip hop, and we talk a lot of hip hop on this podcast. B, like, these are this for I think a lot of people that are like my age, late 30s, early 40s. Yo, we've been waiting to see a show like this at the Super Bowl. This
yeah.
was never going to happen when we were kids, right? Hip hop was kind of like, nah, you don't do that. It's
It
this
was
other
always
thing.
It was
It was
always
always
pop
pop.
acts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
always, right? So, MJ could get there, like I said, and Prince could get there because
Hmm.
they were, MJ, King of Pop, right? Prince, they were the kind of artists that could get there. But I think for particularly, I'm talking about a lot of black people and hip hop fans, to have hip hop artists of that magnitude on that stage, even an R&B act like a Mary J. Yeah, that's crazy. That like this has never happened before. I hope it opens doors for other hip hop acts to do stuff at future halftime shows. Like that's something I do hope that comes out of this. I'm not going crazy over the halftime show. Thought it was really dope. Hopefully it opens doors for more.
I want to circle back to that in a second, like
Yeah.
what other hip hop acts we think could follow. But I'll keep let's put that in our pocket for now. But like in terms of the halftime show, look, it was good. Also, I just wanted to throw this in there. It was good to see Kendrick again because we haven't seen him. We don't really see him. We don't really hear from him. He hasn't released an album in about 5 years, almost exactly. Damn, it was like April of 2017, I believe. I was hoping that we would get some sort of album announcement, whatever, not necessarily on the show, because as you mentioned, press for time probably just not gonna have the time or the platform to do it. He wasn't the front man there, Dr. Dre was. But it was just good to see a lot of those people and to see 50 Cent. It wasn't something I needed necessarily, but I think that like it's a good reminder for people that he was at one point in 2003 when hip hop was really on fire. He was the biggest act in the sport, if you want to call it a sport, which some people within music do. So look, I thought it was a great performance. I was happy to see everybody. I was curious about the I was thinking about this Dex, the whole setup, like
Mhm.
the white platforms and shit like that. It looked cool when people were on top of it, right? But when they were inside or whatever, I wonder how that would have looked in the arena. But I feel like generally with halftime performances and performances in big stadiums, it's probably hard to see the act, and you're probably looking at the jumbotron most of the time anyway. So
Yeah, you are for that. And I think people should know it's a lot of work that goes into these halftime performances. I was there. So I've covered two Super Bowls. So I was there for Beyonce's performance. I believe that was after the 2014 or 2015 season. 2014, January 2014.
that
So
was the
after the
Kaepernick
23rd.
Super Bowl, wasn't it? I think that
No,
was.
that was the
I'm gonna look this up.
it's Super Bowl where the what you call it got demolished, man. The Broncos got demolished by the Seahawks, if I'm not mistaken. That was
Oh, 2016.
no 20. It was 2016.
It was Super Bowl 50.
So that was the
Broncos Panthers.
Broncos Panthers with Cam Newton. Yeah. So that was another great one.
I wanted Cam to get that one, man.
I'm forgetting who performed. Oh no, Bruno Mars performed at the one where I was here in New York, and I remember seeing them bring out the little setup stuff for him, which was also another good show. Bruno Mars performed at that one. So I've seen that, and like, yeah, it's a lot of work that goes into this stuff. I like the set. I thought it was cool. You're right about that though. When you're in that stadium, you're not probably can't get to see all that detail depending on where you're sitting, unless you're really close. So you're right. Most people who are far away, or depending on the angle, they're watching that on the jumbotron or whatever it may be. So that's it. But yeah, I thought it was a good halftime show. I thought it was enjoyable, and like I said, hopefully it opens up doors for other hip hop acts to follow there, and
Who
we can see
who
that.
Dex? Who are we thinking? Because it's crazy. Because when you mentioned that, like, all right, I know Drake is probably like the obvious one, right? But I don't want to see that shit. So I was thinking about like actual hip hop acts.
I wouldn't mind seeing Drake, man. Drake would be a great one.
I was thinking about actual hip hop acts, and Drake is more of like
actual hip hop acts.
No, because like Dr. Dre is just hip hop, right? Drake is hip hop / pop. Like if he does a Super Bowl, he's probably going to perform all his pop records for the most part.
Yeah, but see, nobody's going to perform. Like, this is what we have to understand here. Nobody's going to perform any, like, there's certain songs I would have loved to. You think I wouldn't like to have seen Dre perform Explosive? That's not happening. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know that's not happening. Like, you got to be real on this. Like, this is not going to happen.
I wanted him to perform some of his GTA shit.
Nah, man.
The new songs are fire, but
you know what? Yeah, but you know what? That hasn't hit with everybody.
No, of course not.
You got it. You know what you're getting. It's like if Jay or Nas did something, we know what we're getting. Now, I think those guys would be dope if you did that. Like, here's what I want.
They should do. No, stop right here. They should
think you know where I'm going. I think I know where you're going.
And Nas.
I agree.
That's what they should do.
I agree.
Just do both of them.
I agree. Which will give you what you know what I would like?
Just don't perform Black Republican. I don't want that in this climate.
No, while I like that song, we don't need that message out there to the NFL.
That had a different connotation 15 years ago when it came out than now. And Nas and Jay would probably acknowledge they would not make that song Black Republican now if they could. So,
probably.
Yeah.
I would I think there's another person I think she should perform Super Bowl. Let me get to that. I think what we need is, you see how they had like the G-Funk West Coast with this? All right, let's get a New York East Coast hip hop sort of verse Super Bowl. Give me Jay, give me Nas, give me some LL Cool J up in there, right? Okay. I'm trying to. I think that's good.
You could bring out the Wu-Tang for
I was gonna say that. You bring out some members of the Wu for something, and I'm thinking about maybe one more person you could do.
The Wu's like 9, so I think we're good.
Yeah, but I think you maybe only get a few members of the Wu. Maybe you just bring like Ray and Ghost.
Method Man's a must.
And yeah, and like that. I don't know who you're gonna do for a fourth act. I'm really thinking about it has to be somebody that's good.
And RZA would be there too because he's like
you'd have him there too on the set. Yeah, so I'm thinking about who else you would do I'm trying to keep it like with 5. A fourth person, I would love to throw you know what who I put up in there? Give me a little Fat Joe and Remy Ma.
Yeah,
so we get some stuff for people uptown. We get our Latinos up in there.
Yeah.
Representing. There we go. Cool. That's a nice little show.
That's perfect.
That's a nice little New York show, right?
I will watch that.
Look, we represented. The only thing we didn't do is we didn't get any Harlem up in there for Manhattan. But we got Brooklyn, we got Queens, we got a little Staten Island, we got the Bronx up in there. Yeah. All right. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, man. You want to throw it. I don't know what Dipset is going to do. You want to throw in Cam?
Oh, that's true, actually. Cool. But I don't know if the Super Bowl will go for Dipset necessarily. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't know about that. See,
now, I think Jadakiss could get there, like as a guest appearance with. Like if we're in the show, we're talking about.
You know who's got to be in there? I forgot. Like you can't do anything in New York hip hop and not put. You got to get Diddy and some Bad Boy ties up in there. Got to. That has to be up in the show.
I don't need it, but I get it.
But the thing is, they have enough major national hits. That's what you got to think about the audience. You're
Yeah.
taking New York, but you're pushing out major national hits. All those people I mentioned, they have major national hip hop classic hits.
So in this hypothetical show we're doing,
Yes.
if you notice that like the one that we just talked about, everyone did basically like 2-ish songs each, like
Yeah.
2-3 songs each, except for
Which is
Dre and
right.
It was Dre's sort of piecing together. I'm wondering like what are the for Nas and Jay in particular, let's stick with them. What are the songs that they're gonna go with? I feel like Jay's a little more like obvious.
Jay is obvious. Jay is, and especially if you have Jay closing, Jay is obviously going with Empire State of Mind. That will be one of the
Oh
songs played.
god. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
but Brian, you got to.
I know.
It's a TV halftime spectacular. You know what I'm saying?
Is he gonna do that in PSA?
PSA? Let me tell you something. If you have for anybody, if you haven't seen PSA live, then like that is one of Jay's best live. Now the other one is You Don't Know, which I would love for him to perform, but that's not going to happen.
No,
That's
I think it would be Empire State of Mind in PSA. Honestly,
I'd be fine, but I'm fine with that.
Because PSA still plays in a lot of arenas. I'm thinking about the song. Like I'm thinking about what are the songs that I typically hear when guys are bringing the ball up the court, or during a timeout in an NFL game, or like PSA is one that's played pretty regularly. Nas has a couple. Nas has Made You Look. I don't know if he'll perform that at the Super Bowl.
I don't think that's like he might do a little.
He would do Hate Me Now. Hate Me Now.
See, but that's why you need Puff there.
Okay, yeah. Then you transition to Puff.
Look,
we're producing.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
saying? Nas has a lot of stuff that like he's not. You're not gonna do like You Owe Me. That's not happening. Simply because nothing off Nostradamus should be done. But I do think.
Does he do anything from Illmatic at the Super Bowl?
I mean, if it was me, I think he could do it. Ain't hard to tell. We want that. I think that would be good. I think he does something old. It could be that. I think there'd be some playing, at least maybe not the whole song, but playing of New York State of Mind. I think that's possible.
Yeah, I don't think he would like do it, but yeah.
But
they'll
I
probably
think
find some sort of New York State of Mind.
Nas is not as clear cut. So I understand your point. I think.
If I Ruled the World.
If I Ruled the World is a good
He'd
one.
Probably do that.
I don't know how the NFL. I mean, I love. There's a lot of black empowerment there. NFL might not love that, but I love it.
I think those are the two. He would do If I Ruled the World, and I think he might. You know what? Actually, there's a blend where you could do like some sort of one mic PSA, sort of like.
I don't know. Listen, I see what you think. See, we can't we're giving away too much to the people, man. We can't be doing that. But I do agree. I think our lineup that we have would be good. Like, let's get this done. New York hip hop Super Bowl. We need it. Let's get it done. Let's get it done. We need it. All right, we're gonna move on. We're going to talk about everybody's favorite quarterback, America's favorite quarterback, Brian's favorite quarterback, Mr. Joe Burrow. All right. And you see, if you're watching this, you see the little lower third we have. There's a lot of talk about Joe Burrow. Now people are saying Joe Burrow transcends race. First of all, let me be clear. Let me be clear about something.
You should put that in quotes so we don't get aggregated.
Yeah, we didn't say this. I'm gonna say who said this. Let me be clear. Yes, we're not saying that Joe Burrow transcends race. There was a article written by Ben, and I apologize, Mr. Ben, if I mess up your last name, Spiegel, I believe it is, from the New York Times.
Spiegel. I think that's it.
And it's nice fit. Joe Burrow belongs to everyone. And to sum up this article, Mr. Spiegel says that Joe Burrow transcends race. I'd like to say something. I hate that term. I hate the term when people say transcends race. Because all transcends race really means is that, this person's comfortable enough for white people, right? And to some degree, black people rock with this person too. If it's the other way, if a black person transcends race, it really means that white people are comfortable with them. And if a white person sort of transcends race, it means that white people have found it cool that they do some quote unquote black things, which is a lot of what's happening around here with Joe Burrow. I saw this. Brian actually brought this to my attention, so I'm clear. Brian sent me this. And I saw this, and I saw people ripping Mr. Spiegel for this, and rightfully they should have. I'm not gonna. If you want to read this article, go ahead, fine. I think if you think very similarly to the way that Brian and I think, then you'll have a problem with it. But I think the standout quote from this article, and I like to read it, and this came from somebody, the last name was Dioka. I just want to Jeffrey Montez Dioka, okay? Who's a sociology professor and the founding director of the Center for the Critical Study of Sport at the University of Colorado Springs. He said, quote, there's this tradition of white athletic excellence at a time when the quarterback position is changing, becoming more black. Quote, the coolness of Joe Burrow is connected to a black aesthetic, unlike Tom Brady, who's such a white quarterback. When you have a white quarterback like Burrow who can code switch, that
Yo.
makes him an especially effective face of the NFL. For context, people, I believe, at least, Brian, that Mr. Spiegel, or this wasn't his direct quote, right? But Dioka is talking about the code switching of Joe Burrow. The code switching, I'm putting that in air quotes, is the fact that he's worn some clothes that seem to be a little bit more urban or black, which is what y'all want to say. Or he's been sort of cool. He seems like the kind of white brother that you can bring to the barbecue. I get all that. I get that. Doesn't mean that he transcends race. We do this thing, and I've seen this particularly with quarterbacks, where it's like the white quarterback is more free and open and so cool, and that's great for the game. But when the black quarterback does it, especially, and I should also add the word expressive. Let me add that, because Joe Burrow has been expressive with his style and whatever. You know who was expressive with their style for a while? Cam Newton. Okay? Cam Newton's been expressive with his style. And people here are acting as though this is some impressive thing. Brian, what do you think about this? I think there's a double standard around how players like Cam Newton are treated opposed to Joe Burrow.
Yeah, and I would also add that, I mean, we typically do this with white quarterbacks also, and it got us to an interesting place with Aaron Rodgers. You know what I mean? Like, he was somebody who a lot of people, not saying he transcended race, but he was also very cool and he was also quote unquote acceptable. And then we started hearing some of his thoughts on a lot of different things, and that went south very quickly. As it pertains to Joe Burrow, look, the reaction to him is the reason why I so badly wanted the Bengals to lose and why I not bet the house on the Rams. I didn't go that extreme, but I bet on the Rams. And, money line, under, the whole shit. Nailed it, nailed it, nailed it. And look, a big part of it was just everyone just overreacting to Joe Burrow and calling him Joe Cool and posting pictures of him with the fucking cigars and posting all of his suits and saying that he's, this, that, and the third, when the Bengals honestly aren't even that good. Like, they're statistically like average or above average team, who they're not better than the Bills and they're not better than the Chiefs. And they're probably not going to be better than the Ravens next year if Lamar Jackson could remain healthy. So, we'll see where that goes. But I think that people were just doing too much with Joe Burrow the last couple of weeks, this being an example of that. No, he does not transcend race. That shit was pretty ridiculous. But I get it. You know what I mean? Like, we're in this climate where it's like some white people feel like we have to overcompensate. And they feel like they have to overcompensate by saying that, hey, Joe Burrow's for everybody. Like, he's not just for us, he's for you guys too. And a lot of people, as you can tell, aren't willing to accept that. So I think that the Joe Burrow hysteria, I'm glad that it's sort of come and gone for now. I'm sure that it's going to be on full tilt again next year. And if the Bengals go 9-8, that'll be a lot better for the rest of us who aren't really eager to see everyone get behind a new great white hope quarterback just because he just happens to be the next one in line who appears to be really good that people are going to do too much with. It's like, yo, we can never let people just develop. We can never let people just progress at the rate like they should be. It's always has to be like, yo, this person is top this or whatever, that or whatever. And lastly, to everybody saying, yo, Joe Burrow will definitely be back. Dan Marino, second year, and he was a lot colder than Joe Burrow was. Second year, got to the Super Bowl, good Dolphins team. I'm sure people assumed he'd be back, and he never got to the Super Bowl again. And he didn't even get to the playoffs all that often. And this is the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not so sure that ownership is going to be eager to spend and get the talent around that they need. They obviously need an offensive line. They need to upgrade on defense. And look, Odell Beckham doesn't get hurt. I think that this could have been potentially a blowout very early. So
I agree. I agree with you on all that. Hit the nail on the head. I just think we've been doing too much with Joe Burrow and this, and people, as Brian said, taking things way too far. Okay, when it comes to that, just way, way too far. Y'all don't have to do this much. We don't have to do this. I like Joe Burrow, but like
Same.
sometimes it's too far. And just like the differences in how black quarterbacks don't get the opportunity to be expressive. When they're expressive, it's a problem. It takes away from how they can be on the field or what they can do. It's like, oh, are they doing too much? When white quarterbacks are expressive, they get praised and exalted like Joe Burrow. And I just think that's a problem. It's like, why can't both just be expressive? I have no problem with Joe Burrow being expressive. Let him do his thing. But when it's a black quarterback, they don't. It would be a problem or a distraction from the team, and nobody seems to say that about Joe Burrow at all.
Are you looking for a better way to play player props or daily fantasy sports? Well, look no further than Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the leading over-under daily fantasy game. Why? Because it's so easy to use and win. You can make your picks in under 30 seconds and win up to 10 times your money in one day. Right now, we have a special offer for our viewers and listeners of the AHTT podcast. All you got to do is sign up now and use the promo code BACKPACK. Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. That's right. They'll match your first deposit up to $100. So, join the over 150,000 others who found a better way to play and download the Prize Picks app today.
We're going to do a deep dive into the NBA trade deadline, but Brian and I have exhausted across various platforms talking about this. But, the big trade that occurred last week was obviously James Harden being traded to Philadelphia for Ben Simmons, Andre Drummond, Seth Curry, and 2 picks. It was really good. Now there's some stuff that's come out around the trade and what's been going on. There was an article written by Jake Fisher of the Bleacher Report who talked about inside Kevin Durant's role in the Brooklyn Nets James Harden trade. And to sum this up for you, pretty much it talks about the fact of how James Harden was not happy, and I believe rightfully so, because Kyrie Irving refused to take the vaccine, but Kevin Durant had some issues with him. He's the one that sort of told management, all right, go ahead with the trade on Thursday, once he realized that James Harden was out. Look, we know James Harden sulked a bit sulked on his way out, wasn't the best teammate, sort of similar to what he did in Houston. But I do think he had a legitimate reason to be unhappy here and want out. It wasn't that crazy to me to think that at all whatsoever. Yo, B, what did you think about James Harden and how everything went down? And also, how KD kind of gave the green light for this trade to be, knowing that James Harden did not want to be here anymore.
Why are we making Kyrie Irving a sympathetic figure?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, that's part of my issue with this stuff coming out.
Right,
it kind of lets Kyrie off the hook. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's like I'm just look. You know me. I'm not caping for either of these dudes in particular. Just because of how they seem to go about their business. James Harden's always had rumors of being selfish and overly selfish, and I just hated his style of basketball in Houston because. I'm going to sound old and white here, which I'm not, but I like team basketball. Exes sounds nasty, doesn't it? I would say this with the James Harden thing. I was not a fan of his basketball style in Houston. So I wasn't necessarily somebody who, and I'm not necessarily somebody who who automatically crowns him top 5 this or best shooting guard that, or whatever the case may be. And with Kyrie Irving, we've spoke about that how many times already, Dex, so we don't even need to get into that and rehash all that. But I will say, it seems to me that what people are doing is taking this situation and painting James Harden as the bad guy for not getting his way and forcing out, which, there's something to be said for how he reacts when he doesn't get his way. But he also has been said to have said this is not what he signed up for in various different ways. And that sort of combined with Kyrie Irving, which is this is the part that he didn't sign up for, Kyrie Irving not getting vaccinated and then just being able to play whenever he wanted, being, as our boy Jamal Murphy put it, coddled by the Nets organization, being somebody who gets to do what he wants, play when he wants, not get vaccinated. And all of a sudden everyone is like, oh, but Kyrie should be allowed to play, because you can play anywhere else, and the players who are unvaccinated, like Justin Holiday, they get to play at Barclays Center when they come, but Kyrie can't play. And we're hearing people talk about like New York should change the law, and it's like, nah, they shouldn't. As a matter of fact, I think it should be the other way. I think that if you're not vaccinated, you shouldn't play. I think that all the other states outside of New York and California or wherever they have these laws, right? Everyone else has laws where if you're unvaccinated, it doesn't matter. It's like, nah, because guess what? If that was the case, we'd probably be out of this pandemic. Because if we had a lot more vaccine mandates and shit wasn't just so gray and cloudy, if it was just black and white. One of the instances where I don't really want nuance, where I actually think this should be black and white. It's like, yo, if you're vaccinated, we could actually move on from this pandemic in theory, right? Because we've seen the statistics about the vaccine saving lives, and we don't have to get through the whole rabbit hole, whatever. But it's clear that it's working, because you know why the numbers have dropped? Because people have actually gotten vaccinated. And it's not like 2020 where motherfuckers were just dying left and right because we didn't have any vaccines left. And if you have, then that's kind of been your prerogative, right? So the whole thing with this is like, all right, the simple solution to Kyrie Irving and James Harden's situation is that if Kyrie got vaccinated, James Harden still might be there, because he would have been vaccinated. He would have been playing this entire time. They would have been working out their chemistry. It wouldn't be this part-time situation that James Harden was clearly fed up with. But everything coming out seems to be slanted in Kyrie's favor, and that doesn't make a lot of sense. We're doing a lot of things now, Dex, like just in general, and I'm not saying this at Jake Fisher or anybody in particular, but we're like, I don't know what discussions we're having anymore as it relates to Kyrie Irving, as it relates to James Harden, as it relates to, I guess, the Ben Simmons portion of this, as it relates to, like just everything surrounding this scenario. I don't even know what we're doing, because people are just taking sides with everything. And people are just deciding that being on Kyrie's side is the right side. And I don't think that makes a lot of sense, where it's like, yo, if he got vaccinated, a lot of this, in theory, could have been avoided.
It's really simple to me. Like, in terms of sides, like either you care about public health or you don't, right? Like there's really no, like you said, there's no gray area on this. And some things there are not. Either you care about public health or you don't. I would say either you care about people or you don't. That's just what it is. Kyrie doing what he does and the choices he's made, which he really has never been clear on anything, has shown to me he doesn't care about public health. He doesn't care about his teammates and the goal of what they're trying to do. I spoke with Michael Grady about this yesterday in the NBA Exchange about him not being there, Kyrie specifically, and the lack of continuity. What I like to be clear is I understand James Harden maybe didn't handle this the best way.
Yo,
he did it.
Here's the thing, though. Like, Sean Marks came out the other day and was basically like, "Oh, we want to get this settled." And speaking on behalf of Kyrie, almost Kyrie's.
He also say, "Oh, nobody's more frustrated than Kyrie that he can't play."
Yeah,
because he can't play. He can. You know how he can play? Get that jab. That's all he's got to do. He can. Like you
don't even need all three of them. Apparently, you just need one.
He can go get that Johnson & Johnson and keep it moving. So I don't feel bad.
The Johnson. He don't even need the good one. He can just get that one.
He can go. He can go do that. And so my thing is that, look, here's my issue. People are slamming James Harden for how he handled it, and I'm not saying he handled it in the best way. I'm not saying that. I understand why you might not feel that he handled it in the best way. But here's the thing. James Harden came to a situation where he was trying to win a championship. James Harden was lifting a lot of the heavy load in Houston for years. Anybody who knows anything in sports, there's a time where you can't lift a heavy load as much as you could offensively for a team as you get older. Father Time catches us all. He came to Brooklyn playing with two other stars, and he figured like, okay, it'd be easier. Now this year, he's playing with another star, and one of them doesn't want to play. In this article by Jake Fisher, we learned that KD went to management and lobbied for them to lift their stance on not letting Kyrie being a part-time player, which, remember, we all lauded the Nets for standing in that ground before. Then they decided to change it because KD, who basically runs the team, came and said, nah, this is not how I want it to go. Okay, fine. You got to look at it from a worker's perspective, people. The people who are banging on James Harden and somehow uplifting Kyrie. Think about this at your job. Whatever it is you do, whatever profession you do, it doesn't matter. Do you want somebody there part-time and they're being treated differently? I'm not naive enough to know that everybody doesn't get treated the same at every job. I know that, right? There's hierarchies. Stars at certain job, people who bring more value to the table, certain job get treated differently. But the one thing that people want to know that work there, even we can accept that everybody doesn't get treated the same way, is that they're all in. Kyrie hasn't been all in. And James Harden was like, I'm all in. I'm showing up. I play hurt. I do all this stuff. And this dude can't get the jab. Yeah, he was pissed. And he had a right to be pissed. And he had a right to say, this is not the work environment I choose to be in anymore. There's nothing wrong with that. People do that every day. I don't care if you're getting paid millions of dollars or minimum wage. If something doesn't serve you, you have a right to say, I don't want to do this anymore. If you're in a toxic work environment and the people around you aren't all in and supporting you for what you want to do, you have a right to say, I don't want to do that anymore. And that's what he did. It just came in the form of a trade. James Harden should not be the villain here, like Brian said. He should not be the villain here. And y'all who were defending Kyrie on this, shame on you. Because you're letting him off the hook. You don't seem to care about public health as much either. You're letting him off the hook here. Brian, you're 100% right. Kyrie is the root of the problem here. We can't ignore that. He's the root. I do believe if Kyrie got the jab and was playing, everything would be fine. James Harden will still be here. The Nets would have been building their chemistry and continuity, and they still would be championship favorites. I truly believe that. He's the root of the problem, and I don't fault James Harden. In fact, I'm defending James Harden here. Not saying I liked how he went out. Not saying I'm here for quitting on your teammates. But if you're gonna get on James Harden for quitting on his teammates, what's Kyrie Irving doing?
Right, and it's like, yo, like nobody watching or listening to this would be down with an employee in their office who not is part-time, but is part-time and gets to do whatever they want while getting paid more, while, you know what I mean, just getting coddled and all these things. Like nobody, if they were in James Harden's situation and they had a Kyrie Irving in their offices, they don't look at it this way, but nobody will be down with that. They don't look at it this way because they don't look at sports as a workplace. They look at sports as something that's, again, an escape from reality that they can analyze and dissect and tune in and tune out whenever they want and use to, you know, potentially medicate or whatever the fuck they got going on. Like that's sort of what it is. And for Kyrie Irving and for James Harden and for this situation, like, yeah, I'm with you. I'm not team either of these dudes, but like I would be more inclined to be sympathetic towards James Harden, if anybody, because again, that's not what he signed up for. Kevin Durant didn't want him to go, per Jake Fisher's report, and he ended up being like, "Look, oh well, like this didn't work out." And now we'll see with Ben Simmons if this works out, because I have some questions there too. Because one, we haven't seen Ben Simmons in a while, and two, I mean, look, there's an interesting personality dynamic there from what we know about all three of these dudes. And shit, Kyrie Irving's in a contract year. We don't even know how much longer he's going to be there anyway. And that's the part that's going to be interesting to me. Like what, because he's probably going to opt in, even if but I shouldn't say that because, you know, he does whatever Kyrie does, right?
Mm-hmm.
The end of the season is going to be indicative of like a lot. So we'll see what happens there. If they just, you know what I think they should do? Just run with the Ben Simmons, Kevin Durant thing, figure that out and see what goes on from there. But they've sort of bended over backwards for Kyrie Irving since he walked into that door, it seems like. So
we shall see. All right, we got a couple quick things to get to before we do a one time for your mind. Winter Olympics, I'm gonna be honest, I haven't watched a second of the Winter Olympics at all whatsoever. Outside of, if you see me, I've been doing some updates for the New York Post and SNY, the Winter Olympics. Outside of that, shout out to Erin Jackson, Black woman who won the 500 in short track meeting, short track speed skating. And I had done a story with her last month. A really nice sister that I had talked to. She came over from inline skating. She won the 500 meters. She was the first American to medal in that race since 2002. First person to win the gold since 1994. And then obviously the first Black person, male or female, to win that race ever. So shout out to her for Black History Month. But tying in with Black people in the Olympics, a story that came out, Russian figure skater is still getting to compete despite having a failed drug test. The skater, her name is, I want to bring this up because I forgot it, Kamila Valeva. That's made that sound a lot more Latino than it did Russian. But so I apologize if I messed her name, but Kamila, I believe is her name. I don't think it's Valeva. I'm sure it's not that. I'm sure my Latino brothers and sisters, including Brian, are shaking their head at me for that because her name doesn't sound like that.
She's Russian, yeah.
She is Russian, so it is not that. She took a drug test back in December. She failed the drug test for a heart medication that actually is known to like help your heart rate when you're competing, Brian. So she failed it back in December, well before the Winter Olympics, which started at the beginning of this month, and she was allowed to compete. But this came out recently. Now, a lot of the talk then comes back to Sha'Carri Richardson, if you remember, Black woman, U.S., and was not allowed to compete in the Olympics because she failed the drug test for smoking some marijuana. And Richardson tweeted this: "Can we get a solid answer on the difference of her situation and mine? My mother died, which she referenced the reason she started smoking some weed, and I can't run. And I was also favored to place in the top 3. The only difference I see is I'm a Black young lady." Now, look, man, there's a lot. I'm not going to go too long on this because we got to move. There's a lot going on here, but for me, it's pretty simple for me on a couple of things. This is the International Olympic Committee. If you know anything about the Olympics and the IOC, they are shady as hell. Oh, Brian, you smiling. You know it. All kinds of shady business dealings, from what we saw them happen in Athens in 2004 with those games, and how they've got all these white elephants, these stadiums that were built and no longer in use. Look at how things were handled in Rio. There's obviously a lot of criticism by them having these games in China with all the human rights violations that are going on over there, right? We can also go back to Sochi and Russia, and it's tied into IOC is shady. I don't trust the IOC on anything. They knew that this Russian woman, is a star. She's favored to be in the top 3. She's going to bring a lot of national attention for Russia and competing in figure skating. She helped in the team round. Now she's doing the individual situations, and is going to be allowed to compete in that. Now, they did not have medal ceremonies for the competitions that she was in thus far. The IOC said they're still, quote, figuring out what they're going to do with it and are holding off these medal ceremonies. So shame to the people who got bronze and silver that can't even get their medals in a ceremony they waited their whole lives to do, because we're going to pander to this. And then you look, so it's one part, you got the shadiness of the IOC. Second part, you can't ignore the race stuff here. Now, it is different because the US OC made the decision on Sha'Carri Richardson, not the IOC. But look, Sha'Carri Richardson smoked some weed. Do I think she should have been allowed to run? Yep. It was in the rules. She broke the rules. Weed, from what I know, it just helps her relax a little bit. It's not a performance enhancer. It doesn't affect what she does on the track. What this woman took, whether knowingly, as they said, some of the rules have been lenient on her, because I believe she's only 16 years old, this young woman. So she's only 16. So the rules were a little bit lenient, but she broke the rules. If we're going to keep it strict where Sha'Carri broke the rules, shouldn't have smoked some weed, this woman broke the rules for something that actually could affect her performance. Yo, she should not be competing. Sha'Carri brings up a fair question. Do I think race is a factor in here? Yes, because it's the world's. Yes. Do I think the IOC is at blame here? Yes, because they've proven to be shady. We know what they are. So when you combine those two things, it doesn't look good. That's all I got to say on that.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to add here. I would just say that if you do smoke weed, yes, you should be allowed to run, though I will contest that it probably won't help you for what we know about weed, depending on.
Well, hoping you don't smoke it right before the race.
Right, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can't be like Snoop Dogg, you know what I mean? Like, he puffed some shit and he went out and performed his halftime show. A halftime show is different from 100-meter dash. Very different. So, maybe we'll see Sha'Carri Richardson run again at some point, because it's unfortunate when she did come back last year, Dex, if you remember, she got dusted. She finished in last
she
place.
Did look good. And she
then
talked that shit. Yep.
And then everyone from Jamaica was making fun of her because there was a little controversy about a tweet she liked that was offensive to Jamaicans. So she was in the mix a little bit there. So we'll see if she could reclaim her status as being one of the top American sprinters, because it's kind of been, I don't want to say downhill ever since the initial Olympic ban. And it's unfortunate because she's somebody who's very young. But look, these windows aren't very open for anybody, but especially for sprinting, right? Like, Usain Bolt is a 1 in a million. Allison Felix, somebody else she went at, is a 1 in a million phenomenon where, like, you're able to compete at a high level and win golds in multiple Olympics. So she was also robbed of the opportunity of that. I don't think that should be lost on anybody as well. So, hopefully she's been training and being able to reclaim sort of her status at one point. And hopefully that she's also not in another Kanye commercial. I'll point that out as well because that was interesting.
Well, it was a Beats commercial with Kanye's music.
Everybody got hyped. They were like, "Oh shit, Sha'Carri Richardson, Donda coming out." And I'm like, "Shit, I don't know if that's the alliance that I want to see her."
Look, Sha'Carri Richardson wanted them checks. I ain't mad at her for that.
She had no say over the song. I'm just playing it. I'm just playing it.
IOC always talks about maintaining fairness. Do the right thing here. Last topic before we get to our one time for your mind, real quick. This involves back to some hip hop. Verzuz will no longer be free.
This is news to me when you put this on the rundown.
Yeah, this is I saw this. Now there was a Verzuz the day we recording this and dropping this podcast, Tuesday, February 15th, which Anthony Hamilton versus Music Soul Child. I'm a big Music Soul Child fan.
I like Anthony Hamilton.
Oh no, Music Soul Child's gonna get him up out of here.
You think so?
Yes.
He might.
Yeah.
He might.
Music Soul Child, one of my favorites.
This?
Tonight.
Oh, I'm not gonna watch
Tuesday, February 15th. Yeah, I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts on this because you and I talk a lot about subscription-based services and paying for media. You and I have had conversations on this podcast. We've had conversations off this podcast about this. And so, real quick on this, Verzuz will no longer be free. I generally never have a problem with media outlets and independent entities that eventually say, okay, we have to charge for this, especially if the content is good. Generally don't have a problem for that. However, your medium and how you're getting this stuff out matters. Now, backtrack, people don't know, if you've been under a hole, if you've been in the rock, if you're not minority, you might not know this, or a hip-hop fan. Verzuz was started early during the pandemic. It was basically having one artist put up their catalog against another artist and for a battle. And it started off on IG Live, right? Good. Then it grew and it expanded and the production grew and it was on Apple Music, which I thought was a fantastic home for it. Also should be noted, this was started by Timbaland and Swiss Beats. Perfect home for it. I thought was really great. And then eventually they signed a deal with Triller, which I'm going to be honest, before that, I had never heard of Triller at all whatsoever. And I'm still actually not sure why I would look at Triller other than Verzuz, to be kind of honest. Like, I really don't know. Like, I know they do some stuff around fighting and boxing, which I'm sure Brian knows. But other than that, I don't know why I would look at it all whatsoever. So now they've been on there. They've been doing that with Triller, I think, since about last summer. They've been doing some stuff. The last Verzuz, which was 3 6 Mafia versus Bone Thugs and Harmony, which I did not watch in its entirety, apparently at the end of the Verzuz, they put up a message announcing to people that the next Verzuz you would have to pay for. But B, you know how these things go. End of something like that that's live, people are logging off. They ain't really looking for that. So I think, number one, that was a poor way to announce it. So now more news has come back out that it is not free and you have to pay for this Verzuz that is coming up Tuesday, February 15th. The day we're dropping this, Anthony Hamilton, as I said, versus Music Soul Child. And some people are pissed off about it, right? And I get all that. Not mad at them charging, but I do think the platform you have matters. And B, I want to hear your reaction to this. When they were in the Apple ecosystem, and you can still also watch it. Oh, that's another point I should put out to this. Because they're charging for it now on Triller, it'll no longer be on IG Live, because that was always the option for people. Even when it was on Apple Music, you could watch it on IG Live. IG Live Verzuz done, not happening anymore. So you don't have that access. Now, and let me also be clear, because people might be like, well, what are you losing? When it's on IG Live, you're not getting the widescreen. You're not able to see the full element of everything that's going on. You're seeing it in a vertical view as you would. Okay, fine. I'm rooting for Verzuz, rooting for Tim and Swiss. I think the mistake they made here was going with Triller. That's the mistake they made. When it was in the Apple ecosystem, there's enough people who have Apple. A lot of people, millions of people have iPhones, right? A lot of people have iPhones. Even if you don't, you can still then get it on IG. So even if you were an Android user, but they were getting a lot of people. And it was built into Apple Music where you already have subscribers. You were linked with a company that can distribute something for you and help with the production, but they already are adding this into what people are paying for the subscription. I'm an Apple Music user. So I already pay for this, whatever, per month. And now this is just not a bonus. So people are going to see the value in it. Hell, even if you raise the Apple Music price subscription price by $1, people still be like, okay, whatever, paying for the Verzuz, it's fine. When you put it on Triller, a platform that nobody really uses for anything, um, it's going to be hard to get to people to pay for this because they're paying for Triller, and people don't understand why they're paying for Triller. So the cost of it is $2.99. Do I think people are going to pay $2.99 for a Verzuz? Yeah, one off every now and then, and there is a 14-day free trial if you want. But you're really asking them to invest in Triller, and I don't think that people are going to be willing to do this. So what I'm interested in seeing, Brian, is what are the numbers going to be like for this latest Verzuz? Because this is how companies do all the time. They got to experiment. They want to basically see, will people be willing to pay for this product, right? And it's interesting. I think people are willing to pay for Verzuz. I just don't think people are willing to pay for Verzuz on Triller. How do you feel about this?
I think that a lot of people are also just kind of like over the concept. Like, I don't see Verzuz getting the same buzz now, generally speaking. Excuse me. I'm having a bad day with the phlegm, man. I ain't gonna lie to you. I think a lot of people are just not necessarily over the concept in terms of like they're never going to tune into another Verzuz, but like even for me, it's gonna take me a minute to remember certain things or just want to tune into certain things. So now if you're talking about money, even if it's a very small transaction, there are not a lot of things that I'm going to be willing to pay $3.99 for or $2.99 for, right? as somebody who just, is not very not someone who's going to spend a lot of their money. So like I'm looking at the list of Verzuz. There's been 37 in total apparently. This is according to the wiki. Bone Thugs and Harmony and 3 6 Mafia was the last one. That happened. That was in December. Dex, I don't even remember that one until you brought it up. I didn't even remember that one. And I'm somebody who likes 3 6 and Bone Thugs. Not like that. Not enough to be like, oh, okay, like I'm gonna definitely set aside everything I'm doing and tune in. There was something else going on that day that I'm sure I tuned into. Chaka Khan and Stephanie Mills. I'm not the demographic for that. KRS-One and Big Daddy Kane. I saw that. I saw it after the fact though. I didn't watch it live. Somebody just uploaded it to YouTube. Saw it. Fat Joe and Ja Rule, that's right in my demographic. I still haven't actually watched it. Dex, did you see that one, Fat Joe and Ja Rule?
I watched about half of it. It was decent. It was solid.
This is the last one that I like sat down and like watched and analyzed and live tweeted, and you know where I'm going, and it's the Locks and Dipset.
Yeah, that's a classic. That's a classic one. It's an all-time great now.
That's one of the best. Like when you think about Verzuz, it might be the first one you think about. Honestly, it might be. Because it was in an arena when it happened. We were not out of COVID, but things were looking a lot better because it was August.
Yeah.
They were packing too many people into that stadium, though, or arena, rather.
And it was a theater, Madison Square Garden, yeah.
Jada Kiss was legendary. And before that, Keith Sweat, Bobby Brown, Bow Wow, Soulja Boy. I didn't even know Bow Wow and Soulja Boy did a verse.
Yeah, I knew that. Last year, you make a good point about the
Eve Trina.
Yeah, which I didn't watch either.
Didn't watch it. Like Swizz Beatz versus Timbaland had a rematch. I didn't know that. SVW versus Escape. Redman, Method Man.
Don't put no disrespect on SWV. But I did watch that one. You said SVW.
Like Law and Order or whatever the fuck.
Special Victims Unit, SVU. Okay. No, I was like, you're not gonna disrespect one of my favorite groups. I did watch SWC. You got me almost saying SVW. SWV versus Escape. I did watch that one.
Redman, Method Man, I didn't watch because it wasn't a battle. It was just kind of like a celebration. I love them dudes, but I was cool. Earth, Wind, and Fire versus Isley Brothers. Again,
I watched that, and that was fantastic.
Not the demographic, but I'm sure it was great. Raekwon and Ghostface. I watched that obviously because I'm the demographic for that.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, but
there hasn't been a lot of D'Angelo and Friends. Ashanti, Keisha Cole.
I love the D'Angelo one.
That shit got postponed a couple times.
Yep.
And then if you go, and then other than that, you're basically back in 2020. I just read you all of 2021.
2020 had better matchups, and I think a lot of it is the interest was it, and we needed stuff more at that time. So I hear your point.
And it was IG Live still. And my whole thing is this: like now I'm at the point where I think other people are just having. I've talked to a couple people about like the whole Verzuz concept. And for me, it's like you if you're gonna get me to sit down and watch it and like make it appointment television or whatever, like you're gonna need to swing bigger here. And for me, it's like I'm not saying like I'm not tuning in unless it's Jay-Z or Nas because I know that that's probably not gonna happen. Mm-hmm. But like I'm gonna need more than what's going on here, right? Like we've heard rumors about a couple different things, and I'm actually gonna pull up a list of upcoming battles. And I know you wanted to chime back in here, so I'm gonna do that because I'm gonna see like maybe there's something that's coming up
I
that
don't
will get
even
my
know.
$2.99.
I don't even know what they have that's coming up. I don't really even pay attention that much down the road as much anymore. Like, I talk with one of my friends about it like it's just like anything else, like boxing, any of these sports. There's gonna be some good matchups and there's gonna be some duds. Everything is not gonna be a hit. Like, and I'm well aware of that. Like, I don't think the matchups in 2021 were as good as 2020. I agree with that. I think except I do think I think there were some really good ones in 2020. I love the Beatty Man and Bounty Killer. That was one of my favorites. I love the Locks and Dipset. That was great. SWV Escape was dope. There's some good ones. It is what it is. I do think you're right about losing interest in. I also think that for a lot of younger fans, because unless you hit people in certain demographics, sometimes people are going to be willing to pay, but not everybody. Like, would I pay for the Music Soul Child one? Probably, because I like Music Soul Child, but I'm not sure I will tonight, actually. I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know. I know we gotta move on to get these one time for your minds, 'cause I gotta get out of here. But yeah,
Lil
we'll
Kim
see.
says she's willing to do one against
I saw that against
Nicki Minaj.
Foxy or Nicki
Or,
Minaj,
or no, not against Nicki Minaj. She said I don't think she said
Foxy
she.
Brown. I think it was
Oh,
Foxy
yeah.
Brown, which is a matchup. I pay for that. I'm there for that.
You probably get my $2.99. Lil
Yep,
Kim, Foxy
I'm
Brown, you
there for
probably
that.
get my $2.99.
I'm there for that. I'm there for that.
That's
You know what?
swinging big for me.
I will say this before we move on real quick because we got to wrap. But I think that if you get better matchups, that there's a high demand for people to see, then you'll get people to pay. See, what I'm interested to see is if this bombs where they have people pay for this one and people don't pay, they're going to have to start saying to themselves, we're going to have to bring A-list matchups all the time to get people to pay. I do think if your matchups are great, you'll get people to pay. I do think that, but you just can't, for what people have seen where it's been sort of up and down, which was to be expected, and the platform being Triller, nah, man, I don't see it happening.
Whatever.
I'm not mad at them trying to get the money. I support that. I do, and I
Yeah.
love what Tim and Swiss has done. But I just think it would have been easier if it already was in a platform where people were already enrolled or coming to where a subscription, like in Apple Music.
And it's kind of past its peak in my estimation, unless they can get some, like what you said, some of these A-list battles. Look, whatever fucking Nas and Jay want, whatever, I don't care, whatever amount of money they want to do it, or Eminem, whatever, do it. Like that's where I'm at with Triller at this point.
Well, if you want to do that, and
with Verzuz, I should say.
and it'll be interesting to see what the price point will be for people, because I'll tell you what, for a Verzuz, they give me Jay and Nas, I'll pay $7.99 for that. Wouldn't even
I'll pay $20 if you give me.
And
Jay
here's the thing,
I'll pay pay-per-view money.
I understand everybody can't afford that, so you have to come up with a price point that works. But we'll see. We'll see how that goes and how things go with Verzuz. But for now, Verzuz no longer free.
One time for your mind, one time. One time for your mind, one time.
One time for your mind. I got some interesting stuff this week, real quick. Brian will be talking about a broadcaster who was turned into politics. And I will talk about how a sheriff's office was asking people to snitch on Valentine's Day. And that ain't love. That ain't cool. Brian, what you got?
You know Michelle Tafoya, right?
Yep.
She retired. She had this legendary broadcasting career. She was an NFL sideline reporter for many, many years, won Emmys, did the whole thing, on NBC, et cetera, et cetera. So The Athletic reported yesterday, or not The Athletic, USA Today reported yesterday on The Athletic repurposed it. Is The Athletic doing they're just doing wire shit now also on top of all the other stuff they're doing? That's interesting. Michelle Tafoya is going to co-chair a campaign for Minnesota Republican governor candidate, and she is venturing into politics as a Republican. And to which I did find an interview several years ago from like 2015. She described herself in 2015 as a conservative person that has libertarian strains, and she says she's a pro-choice conservative. Dexter, put yourself on the screen. Got to see your facial reaction to this. So Michelle Tafoya is getting into politics, and apparently, she announced this yesterday, Monday, and that she was going to co-chair a political campaign for a businessman, an Army veteran, Kendall Qualls, who was running for governor as a Republican in Minnesota. And Michelle Tafoya says this is absolutely her decision, and she had been wanting to do this earlier in her career, but she ended up staying on broadcasting. And yeah, I don't know. I think this is very interesting, Dex, because we saw this with to I don't know if it's lesser degree, more degree, but we kind of saw this with Britt McKendry, where she wanted to pursue some other things outside of reporting, and it's another example of a reporter who is reporting anti a lot of the things they reported on, if that makes a lot of sense. You know what I'm getting at? I'm kind of talking around here.
Well,
but
some people are going to use their platforms to get into spaces to get to agendas and stuff they want to do. I don't know Michelle Tafoya's reasoning for wanting to get in politics. Like, she said she wants to do this before. Like, why? I would love to know more about what change she hopes to.
Minnesota's an interesting place for that too.
Yeah, I'm intrigued into that. Listen, I don't. If you're trying to do things to make it better for people, God bless you. If that's what you're trying to do, I think there's something to be said that the party she's aligned herself with hasn't necessarily shown that. But if that's what you're trying to do, cool, it's fine. Like, maybe her platform before her previous career helps her. People are free to choose and do whatever they want to a career. I just hope they're doing it for the right reasons. That's really all I got to say. I really got much
no
more.
further comment from me. I'm just leaving that there because you can make your own interpretations.
How you want. All right, my one time for your mind. Man, listen. Valentine's Day. Look, I'm not like a super Valentine's Day person. I'm here for the love of people, and you doing what you want to do. But North Carolina Sheriff's Office, they're out here trying to ruin Valentine's Day for people. North Carolina Sheriff's Office was giving people a chance on Valentine's Day weekend to show their exes, their former lovers, that they're still wanted by turning them in if they have outstanding warrants. Yes, people. I can do find this funny. Yes, people. That means that if you got an ex and you know they had some outstanding warrants, you can call up the sheriff's office. ATF gonna be at their door. First thing, so shout out to my homegirl Tiffany who sent me this. And the first thing I said is, why would you do this? Why would you be thinking about your ex on Valentine's Day in the first place? She gave me the response that was perfect. She was like, Dex, people are petty. She's right. She's right.
Oh, I wasn't even going there.
People are really petty. There's also other reasons I could see you probably thinking about your ex. Could be lonely.
Some people miss that thing. Know what I'm saying?
Some people miss that thing. Well, if you're making this call, you clearly don't miss that thing, right? Like, if you're making this call, clearly this is not what it is. But they got people doing this, and they called it a Valentine's Day weekend special, right? And they described it as a special too sweet to pass up. The offer was posted on Facebook, and it includes what the sheriff's office described as a set of limited edition platinum bracelets, okay, which were obviously handcuffs, free transportation with a chauffeur, and a one-night minimum stay in our luxurious 5-star accommodations, which would be jail, which we know that it's not. It tops the offer with a special Valentine's dinner, blah, blah, blah. Operators are standing by, and they had a picture with a set of heart-shaped handcuffs. So some people laughed at this. They called it brilliant, hilarious. One person said that whoever came up with this should get a raise, blah, blah, blah. Look, man, I'm not here to joke about people's freedom. I don't really think that's funny. I don't think it's funny. And I think this is wildly dangerous in all seriousness, because what if you have a spiteful ex and you don't have a warrant and they just want to make this call?
Or if you're the spiteful ex.
Right? And no, but I'm just saying, your ex calls something on you, you got no warrants, and ATF comes pounding the door telling you to open up, and they're coming in and say, that's not cool, man. That's not cool.
In North Carolina.
Cool. Yes, some people are going to get got because people are just being petty. Like, and you can't, don't joke around with people's freedom. Even if they got an outstanding warrant, you're going to do them like this? Come on. Yeah, not cool with you asking people to be out here snitching. If you made this phone call on somebody for Valentine's Day, you have no love in your heart. You got no love in your heart at all whatsoever.
There are a lot more creative ways to get back to your ex if you really care about that stuff and are that kind of person.
Yeah,
but
you also don't have to be. You also have to be that petty. All right, that's it for this episode of the Hotel Podcast, episode 212. We covered a lot today.
Yes.
That I hope you enjoyed. I think there was a lot of good topics on this podcast that Brian even added. I added. Brian, don't be calling the ATF for any exes, man. Don't do that.
I don't have exes. I'm cool.
Good for you. Good for you. We don't have to worry about you enacting some ridiculous level of petty. You don't have to do that at all.
No.
But please continue to follow the podcast, support us in any way that you can. Also, be sure to check us out on Patreon. You can support us that way. As usual, always a huge thank you to all of our patrons. And be sure to check out our promotion partnership with Prize Picks that you saw a commercial for or listened to earlier in this episode. He's Brian Fonseca. I'm Dexter Henry. Until next time, y'all. Peace.